There are places where science ends and darkness begins, where reality fractures and nightmares breathe. These are the tales of Carl Otto's dark anthology. The Veiled Tapestry, Book 1, Chapter 5, The Art of Shadows, by Carl Otto. John's life had veered off course since Uncle James's death. Days no longer ticked by in simple hours, but in relentless questions, haunting and unanswerable. Savannah felt heavier somehow, as if the entire city were holding its breath, secrets tucked between its cobblestones like whispered truths in a confessional. His hotel room was transformed into a makeshift command center. Textbooks on forensic analysis lay open on the small desk, notes scribbled hastily in the margins. John paced restlessly, glancing over pages worn thin by countless late-night study sessions. The old mantra from his teacher, Professor Mills, echoed in his mind. Every detail matters. But now, that promise of purpose mocked him, hanging like a bitter taste at the back of his throat. Hope watched him quietly from across the room, concern deepening the lines on her brow. Finally, she shut her laptop and broke the silence gently. "John, talk to me. What's going through your head?" He stopped pacing, shoulders tense as he faced her. "Hope, I studied forensics because I wanted to make a difference. Uncle James believed in me, always said I had a knack for seeing patterns other people missed. But here I am, trained, ready, and completely fucking useless." She stood, crossing the room to him, her eyes filled with empathy. "Baby, you're not useless. You're grieving. Nobody expects you to solve this by yourself. If not me, then who?" John's voice cracked slightly, revealing the raw frustration simmering beneath. "The police? They're treating me like I'm some meddling kid. My uncle is dead, Hope. Murdered. And I've never felt so powerless. You're allowed to feel lost, John, I get it. But please," she said, taking his hand gently, fingers intertwining with his, grounding him. "Be careful. Racing ahead blindly won't help. It won't bring James back." His eyes softened as he squeezed her hand, the comfort of her touch briefly easing the ache. "I know you're right, but sitting here waiting feels impossible. If I can just get through to them, convince them I know what I'm doing, maybe they'll take me seriously." Hope sighed softly, nodding reluctantly. "All right, babe. Just promise me. No heroics. Be careful." He leaned in, pressing a grateful kiss to her forehead. "I promise." John grabbed his keys and stepped outside into the thick, humid Savannah air. The ghost of Hope's touch lingered, a fleeting comfort quickly overshadowed by the dark weight of uncertainty and the burning need to find answers that only seemed to move further from his reach. By the time John reached the police station, his mind was a tempest, each thought colliding and splintering against the edges of his control. His heart thumped steadily but tight, a metronome keeping time to the anxiety crawling beneath his skin. The building stood in sterile defiance to the chaos inside him. Buzzing fluorescent lights, starkly polished tiles, and the mechanical hum of routine clashed jarringly against the shadowed reality he now inhabited. The station's air was thick with the aroma of stale coffee and antiseptic cleaners, yet beneath that familiar scent lurked something John couldn't quite identify. Something that felt off, unsettling, and deeply wrong. At the reception desk, a weary officer tapped absently at a keyboard, his gaze vacant until John approached. "I'm John Gray," he said, his voice calm yet edged with urgency. "My uncle, James Gray, was the recent homicide victim. I'm here to talk to Detective Williams." The officer barely acknowledged him, eyes glazed over from exhaustion. "We've given your family all the information we can. It's an active investigation. There's nothing more we can tell you at the moment." John leaned forward, his voice sharpening, determination cutting through his carefully restrained patience. "Look, I understand procedure, but I studied forensic science. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want answers. Maybe I can even help." The officer finally glanced up, eyes narrowing slightly at the controlled intensity in John's voice. With a reluctant sigh, he reached for the phone. "Detective Williams is handling your uncle's case. Hold on." Moments later, John was escorted down a narrow hallway to a cramped, dim office, overflowing with case files and forgotten coffee cups. Detective Nathan Williams sat behind a cluttered desk, shadows under his eyes betraying his sleepless nights. His gaze was assessing, quietly weighing John's presence with practiced suspicion. "Hello, Mr. Gray." His voice a tempered southern drawl sharpened by the stress of his work. "Wish I had better news for you, son, but this case, it's complicated." John met the detective's gaze directly, pushing down the rush of frustration that threatened to cloud his judgment. "Detective Williams, my uncle wasn't just anyone to me. I studied forensic science precisely for situations like this. I understand how cases are built, the importance of details. Let me help, or at least share what you've got so far. Please." Williams rubbed his jaw thoughtfully, clearly conflicted. His eyes searched John's face, weighing the earnestness and pain in his expression against the procedural walls erected by years on the job. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly, the burden of his choice settling heavily across his shoulders. "I understand your need for answers," Williams began cautiously, "but involving you directly could jeopardize this investigation. If any piece of this leaks, the suspect could walk. That's not something I can risk, no matter how sincere your intentions." John leaned forward, his voice laced with barely contained tension. "I'm not asking you to break protocol. Just give me something, anything. You can't expect me to sit quietly while his killer goes free." Williams shook his head firmly, his voice holding a gentle but impenetrable finality. "I've said all I can. Go home, John. Be there for your family." John's frustration surged, cracking through his composure. "Can I at least access his shop or house? Go through his things?" "Once the forensic team wraps up tomorrow morning, not a moment sooner," Williams replied evenly, his voice unyielding but not unkind. John's temper finally snapped. Rising abruptly, he shot back with bitter sarcasm, "Glad to see you're doing your best." His parting words echoed sharply as he stormed out, each step carrying him further from the neat, structured world of law enforcement and deeper into the tangled darkness that had claimed his uncle's life. Williams watched John leave, guilt shadowing his expression as he reached for his phone. Once the door shut behind John, he dialed quickly, speaking in a low, uneasy voice. "Connor, it's Detective Williams. We've got a problem. James's nephew, he's not going to let this go easy." Back at the hotel, John shared what he'd learned from Detective Williams. Hope listened closely, concern creasing her brow. "John, maybe there's something at the shop the police missed. Are you sure you want to get involved in this?" John's voice sharpened, cold with purpose. "I have to, Hope. Uncle James didn't deserve whatever happened to him. I need to know who, or what, did this." She reached out, ever his steady anchor. "Just promise me you'll be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." He nodded, trying to sound more certain than he felt. "I will. We'll figure this out. Together." The next morning, they returned to Uncle James's shop. The police had finished their sweep, and for the first time since the murder, the place was theirs to enter. John slid the key into the lock of the makeshift temporary door. His hand trembled slightly. There was a weight in the air, grief, fear, and something darker still. As the door creaked open, a knot twisted in his gut. The door opened to chaos. Shards of the original door littered the floor, and toppled shelves spilled books and artifacts across the room. The musty scent of old paper mingled with an acrid, unsettling odor. Hope recoiled, her voice tight with shock. "Oh my God, John! Who could have done this?" John's jaw clenched, his expression darkening. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." They stepped inside, careful not to disturb the debris. Broken glass crunched beneath their shoes. Hope's eyes were drawn to the taped outline on the floor. Her voice cracked. That's where they found Uncle James. John followed her gaze to the faint bloodstain beside the outline. We need to figure out what happened, Hope. Maybe the police missed something. She moved closer to him, reaching for his hand. Her touch grounded him. We'll figure this out together. They began sifting through the wreckage, searching for anything out of place. John picked up the broken frame of what looked like an ornate mirror. Hope studied it. Why would someone break a mirror? I'm not sure, but it looks deliberate. We should hang on to it, just in case. As they dug deeper, a pattern began to emerge. Some items were destroyed, others conspicuously untouched. John, Hope said, pointing. Look at these. It's like someone skipped over them on purpose. He examined the scene. Whoever did this was searching for something specific. When they didn't find it, they left in a hurry. We'll need to check James's records, see what he was working on. Hope nodded, determined. We'll figure it out. They catalogued anything unusual, the sense of being watched never fully leaving them. The shop, once warm with nostalgia, now felt like a threshold to another world. John sat at his uncle's old desk, fingers brushing worn wood, the weight of legacy settling over him. Then came the sound of the bell above the door. A figure stepped in, tall, olive-skinned, with dark hair and an easy confidence. Jude. The door groaned shut behind him as he entered, casting long shadows across the floor, shadows that seemed to reach out. His salt and pepper hair was slicked back meticulously, revealing sharp hazel eyes and a scar that traced his jawline, a scar whose origin he'd always deflected with charming vagueness. His face was carved from secrets, features unreadable but attentive, taking in every detail of the chaos with practiced ease. He wore a tailored black coat, silver rings etched with ancient symbols, glinting ominously in the dim shop lights. As he moved, the rings caught the light briefly, shimmering as if reflecting something hidden beneath their polished surface. John, Jude said calmly, voice smooth yet controlled, expertly masking his thoughts as he read the room. I thought you might need some help. John managed a relieved smile, oblivious to the calculating flicker that passed briefly behind Jude's composed expression. Thanks, Jude. We could use all the help we can get. Jude turned to Hope, extending a hand, his movement smooth, rehearsed, a gesture he'd clearly practiced often. You must be Hope. I'm Jude, friend of James. I'm sorry we're meeting like this, but I want to help however I can. Hope shook his hand, cautious but polite, feeling a faint, unexpected chill in his grip, despite his warm smile. It's nice to meet you. John's told me about you. Thank you for being here. Jude's eyes scanned the room, lingering for just an instant longer on the stairway leading upward. It's a mess. Mind if I take a look around? Please do, John said, unaware of Jude's lingering attention. Your insight could be valuable. Jude crouched to inspect the damage, movements precise, eyes quickly assessing the items scattered about. Whoever did this wasn't just wrecking the place, they were looking for something. These untouched items, not the target. His gaze drifted thoughtfully around the room again. I took a quick look around earlier. Didn't notice anything missing, but maybe you'll see something I overlooked. Hope frowned, sensing an undercurrent she couldn't quite define. What were they after? Jude's voice grew thoughtful, his tone deliberately neutral, carefully constructed. James had rare books, artifacts, but maybe it was something hidden. Have you checked his upstairs vault? I wasn't able to open it to look. He gestured casually to a locked door at the back of the shop, his fingers lingering momentarily in the air. He kept things there, secure. I never saw exactly what myself. John's eyes narrowed slightly, suspicion barely awakening. You think they were after something in the vault? Hope pulled John aside, her voice low, uneasy tension tightening her words. I don't trust him. John blinked, confusion evident. Why not? He worked with Uncle James. That's exactly it, Hope said urgently, feeling a growing sense of unease. He had access. He knows where the valuables are, but claims he never saw the vault. What if he's the one who broke in? Now he wants us to lead him to the vault. John's face shifted as realization slowly sank in. He turned back to Jude, noticing the other man's patient, watchful stance. Jude, I just remembered we're supposed to meet my parents. Can you come back later? Jude raised a brow subtly, a glimmer of something unreadable flickering across his eyes before nodding. Of course. Call me if you need anything. His eyes lingered briefly on the stairs once more before he turned to leave, the shop door's bell echoing quietly behind him. Hope watched him leave, her eyes sharp and wary. Thank you, John. I just don't think we can trust him. No, you're right, John agreed, a chill now running up his spine. No one but family goes upstairs. Not until we know who killed Uncle James. Hope squeezed his hand. We'll get to the bottom of this. Let's check out the vault. They ascended the stairs, the air thickening as if resisting their intrusion. Heavy curtains dimmed the light, casting long shadows. Shelves groaned with ancient tomes. John ran his hand over spines covered in strange symbols and forgotten languages, now aware of a presence that felt distinctly like Uncle James. Hope noticed John's expression darkening, his gaze fixed intensely on something across the room. What is it? She asked, her voice edged with concern. John raised a hesitant finger, pointing toward a tapestry hanging heavily against the far wall. Behind that, there's a door. Uncle James explicitly warned me never to open it. He was deadly serious about it. Hope felt a chill crawl up her spine, her curiosity now mingled with a primal unease. She reached out carefully, pulling the tapestry aside to reveal a solid wooden door marked by deeply inscribed arcane symbols. A sudden coldness gripped her as she realized how disturbingly similar they were to those she'd glimpsed on James's coffin. These markings, she whispered, her voice barely audible. They feel like more than decoration. They mean something. John swallowed hard, fighting a rising apprehension. It feels wrong, but we need answers. Without another word, he stepped forward, instinctively tracing the symbols. His fingers moved almost without conscious thought, compelled by a memory he didn't fully understand. A mechanical click resonated through the room, deceptively gentle, followed instantly by a sharp, burning jolt that shot violently through John's hand and up his arm. He stumbled backward, a sickening dread pooling in his chest. Damn it, he gasped, shaking his hand to dispel the lingering pain. It felt alive, like it judged me. Hope rushed to his side, eyes wide. Maybe we're not supposed to open it yet. Perhaps there's more we need to learn first. John flexed his trembling fingers, frustration and fear battling openly in his expression. He cast a wary glance toward the staircase they'd just ascended, half expecting Jude's shadow to appear again. Or maybe it's designed to keep something locked in, and us locked out. She took his hand, gently inspecting the reddened skin, her tone firm yet calming. Or it's testing us, making sure only someone who truly understands these secrets can open it. The silence hung heavily between them as they stared at the sealed door, its cryptic symbols mocking them. An oppressive sensation, almost a physical weight, enveloped the room. We'll figure it out, Hope said, attempting to reassure them both, despite feeling the unsettling weight of unseen eyes. When the time is right, it'll open. John nodded slowly, though his unease didn't diminish. We should check the shop again. Maybe Jude overlooked something. Descending the stairs, they felt the shadows pressing in more closely, as if whispering lingering warnings in their ears. The feeling of being watched was relentless, every item they touched now taking on a sinister undertone. They sifted through the shop once more, each artifact and tome screaming silently with suspicious intent. Evening shadows lengthened, deepening the room's oppressive atmosphere. Finally, drained physically and emotionally, they secured the door behind them. The lock clicked with unsettling finality, yet they both knew it offered little real safety. The mystery of Uncle James's death still haunted every breath. They knew now, without question, they weren't alone. This dark revelation was only the beginning. So, what do you think is hidden behind that vault door? Is it protecting something or locking something away? I'd love to hear your theories down in the comments. If you're enjoying this story, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me grow the channel and bring you more of the stories you love. And hey, while you're down there, hit that notification bell to make sure you never miss an update. Thanks for being here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.